Oh, lovely.
Recording in progress.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for June 25th. Corey, could you call roll call?
Sure. Melissa Dio.
Present.
Joyce Gifford.
Here.
Tim Lanehart.
Here.
Ken Wooster.
Here.
Tim West.
Here.
And Emily Lisborg.
Here.
Great. Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to open it up to any public comments. If anyone's here for public comment. Looks like we do not have anything for that today. It is not a part of our business plan, but as chair, I'm going to add in a part of our general business of an approval of last meeting's minutes. They are in our packet. Can we get a motion for the minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, can we get a call or a vote for the approval of minutes?
Yes. Emily, would you mind muting? Melissa Dio.
Yes.
Joyce Gifford.
Yes.
Tim Lanehart.
Yes.
Ken Wooster.
Yes.
Tim West.
Yes.
And Emily Lisborg.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's move on to general business that is on the agenda. The first thing we have is Parks Master Plan and SDC updates.
Thank you. Good evening, committee members. Scott Archer, Park and Rec Director, and these are a couple of just update items for your awareness. Certainly, if you have any questions or conversation, we'd welcome that. These are items that you've worked on quite a bit over the last 2 to 3 years. So the Parks Master Plan has gone all the way through the total adoption process as of last Wednesday, the 18th. It went to the City Commission for, it had gone through Commission previously, as I think you know, for them essentially approving the master plan, but then there was this process to add it to the city's comprehensive plan, so part of the land use and planning process, and that has been completed as of last week, so it is fully adopted and fully part of the city's comp plan now. And just wanted to make you aware of that. And then related to that is the system development charge update, which is, of course, one of our important funding methods that we use for our parks development and parks expansion. We brought that to the City Commission also last week on the 18th, and we were seeking the adoption of what we were presenting as the final draft that you had seen previously. And after some pretty robust conversation, the commission, they continued the item to July 16th and wanted us to bring back, staff, to bring back some additional information. So in the rates, without getting too far into the weeds, there is single family resident rates, and those are tiered by how big the house is, so square footage. And then we also have a multifamily rate, which is apartments or those types of dwellings. And with that, we did not have a tiered rate of any type. I think that was discussed as consideration as part of the process over the process, but for various reasons, we didn't land on anything that was tiered. And the commission actually wanted to explore the idea of should we do something similar where we have a tiered leveling of higher or lower rates depending on either the size of the unit or perhaps the number of bedrooms or something to that effect. So they wanted us to bring back some scenarios that would propose or that would give them something to consider with that. The other part that they discussed and wanted us to bring back some additional information is in the capital plan with the STC methodology is the future aquatic and recreation center. And we've got that initially estimated at a $40 million project in the capital plan. And based on that, there were some percentage of what could be applied for future growth and those types of things. And then with some reductions, we ended up with a $9 million price tag for that in the STC methodology. Some of the commission were interested in the idea of do we really want that to be part of our SDCs or not? And so they asked us to bring back some additional information as to if we reduce the contribution from SDCs towards that project down to, let's say, $5 million and then down to zero, so essentially removing it from the plan, what would the rate differentiation be? Would that bring down the SDC rate? Of course it will if you take a component out. So they've asked us to bring back at the July 16th meeting those scenarios so that they could further review them. And I wanted you to be aware of that, and whether you have any thoughts or feedback on that. What I'm anticipating happening is that we are trying to look at whether we can tee that up as more of a work session before the regular commission meeting that evening, because I think what's going to end up happening is we got direction, but it was fairly general. It wasn't really specific. They just wanted to explore some additional information there. So I think what we're going to end up doing is staff, we're meeting with our consultant that did the project for us and does all the methodology analytics, and asking them to help us prepare some information that we can then bring back to commission. But I think it's going to end up being more of kind of a work session, and then they'll probably have to then continue that to another meeting and give us direction to either, give some clear direction to bring something specific back that they can adopt into the plan that would be a modification of what was presented, or perhaps have further conversation. I don't know at this point what that's going to be. So we'll know a little bit more on the 16th. We'll keep you apprised, and so that's kind of where we're at on those things.
So with the addition of the Aquatic Center into the SDC formula, have you looked at comparison SDC charges amongst our neighbors, Westland, Lake Oswego, Gladstone?
Yeah, certainly. That's how a lot of the information is formulated, is to do some comparative information. So yes, we've done that. Are you talking about the specific price tag that's on that, or just the SDC part of that?
Just the global number.
Yeah.
To build a house here versus somewhere else.
So that was that information was pretty well formed up when I started. So I'm not 100% sure on exactly how that was arrived at, that number, but yes, there's always comparative information and that kind of thing. But as is can be the case with capital planning, as you're looking way out into the future, you're doing your best professional estimate at a point in time, but those things are certainly subject to change. So that's the price tag that was applied for now, and that was the price tag that was used specifically for the SDC methodology to develop, like, how do we want to, and within the SDCs, you can only utilize that part. There's only a part of that amount that can be generated from the SDCs, not 100%. So then that became part of that as well. I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know. I can try to, but I wasn't here when that number was developed. Yeah,
I think we saw a comparison.
We did.
About a year or two ago.
Before the aquatic park was in there, we were still less than our neighbors. But with the addition, is that going to move the ball?
Yeah. And so part of this conversation with the commission, I will say, this isn't exactly answering your question, Tim, but I think it gets at it a little bit. There was conversation around not so much the price tag as much as do we really want to collect SDCs for something that we might need to collect in order, so the number that's in the SEC methodology is $9 million, and to get to that $9 million is going to take many years of collecting SDCs. And so the commission, some of the questions and the points that were made were simply, we may not be able to wait that long to collect that and then apply it towards that facility. So is it even going to help us? Why don't we just seek other funding methods, whether that's a bond measure or all the other different ways that we might look at that, and just attack it a different way and then take that out of the SDCs so that we lower our SDC rates somewhat. I still like the idea that it at least covers a portion of that, and then our fundraising is a little less, and you can borrow against future revenues if you need to. There's different ways to do that, but that's up to the commission to have that conversation. So I think part of that was not as much the price tag, but just the idea of we don't want to wait for 10, 15 years or something to collect that $9 million that's tabbed in the methodology. So we'll see where that conversation goes.
So Scott, is the overall kind of concern about the total number, like, I know that SDCs affect affordable housing and a lot of different things, and that's always a part of the conversation. Is it just kind of that unknown that's out there that, our SDCs are going to be so high that nobody can build, or?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
Part of
accurate.
it, part of
Yeah.
it. And then on the tiered single family, does it make sense to keep the tier, or if you reduce the tier, would that help balance out the final number?
So were you asking that for the single family or the?
Yeah, the single family. I mean, if you reduced the tier level or eliminated the tier level on the single family, that would then even it out with the multifamily, which would make obviously life a little bit easier than
Yeah.
trying to figure out how many bedrooms for each new apartment complex and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just a way. Just haven't seen a lot of tiered fees like that. So I was just curious if it's just trying to get the number down where it's a reasonable number, or is it because they really the kind of the equity of the whole thing and by including the tier.
I think it's a little bit of both. So the conversation that I heard and the way I interpreted the commission's conversation was their objective was we want to collect a reasonable amount to put towards our future parks growth and, accomplish the things that are in that CIP. But yeah, trying to limit the amount of increase as much as possible. So we haven't increased our SDCs for 25 years on the park side. And so, when you're basing something on a 2000 methodology and you go to 2025, the jump is pretty substantial. Right. So I think what, part of that was a little bit of that sticker shock of we're going from here to here. And that's even, the number that we landed at is reduced. We've discounted and reduced, and you don't typically charge the full rate that the methodology might say you need to get to. And as far as the tiering pieces, Tom, and help me out here, but what I understand is the city utilizes that in consistency with the WES, the Water Environment Services. There's an effort to make that consistent within all of the city's SDCs. We have several types of SDCs, and that apparently the single-family tiered method is used, and so that was applied similarly. But we don't do the same thing, and WES doesn't do the same thing for multifamily. So that would be a different direction if they went that direction. So.
Yeah, do we pay an SDC on SDC projects? So if you build a park, do you have to pay SDCs to the rest of the utilities because you're building a park? So if you put in a water meter for irrigation and things, because I know that like the water meter fee is based on the size of the meter. And so I just was curious as to whether or not there's a charge.
Good question. So what I do know is the city we do not exempt ourselves from any of the fees that are applicable on any of our own developments. So we pay everything that any private developer would pay, whether it's water meter or any other types of fees. So if there is an SEC that's applicable, we would pay that as part of the permitting of the project.
Because that'd be another way to maybe reduce the fee a little bit if you didn't, because it really doesn't have that much of an impact on the other funds, but because you're not, so, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome. We'll open up any other questions in regards to Parks Master Plan and the SDC updates.
So with the Parks Master Plan, did you get a final location for the boat ramp in Clackman Park?
Not through the Parks Master Plan. That will be more specified in the forthcoming Clackamas Park kind of master plan refinement that we are pretty close to moving forward on. So actually this summer we're going to put out an RFQ, request for qualifications, for a firm or partner firms to do that work, and that will be where there'll be a process where we're going to refine that whole park and look at where the future replacement boat ramp will go, and we will very much involve this committee in that process.
Great. Excellent. Anything else on this one before we move on to our next part of business? I can continue to say Clackamas Park is probably the number one question I get from the general public, so that'll be fun as that comes up. All right, we're gonna move on to the next part of general business. We can welcome Payson Farms HOA Park, if they would like to come up.
So if I may just give you a quick kind of a staff overview, and then, yeah, we do have a few representatives from the homeowners association here if they're interested in speaking or not. But they have submitted the proposal to us. That letter was in your packet. So it's the Payson Farms Homeowners Association. And that is off of the Central Point area, kind of Central Point, McCord vicinity, a little bit further south of McCord. And I think we have a map of the HOA-owned park that we're going to pull up just to make sure you have a good idea of what we're looking at. And while that's being pulled up, so what has been proposed or is being asked of the city, and this is the process is we're bringing this to you first to just receive some feedback and kind of get a sense of whether we want to explore this. This is a private HOA park. It is 23 acres. It is 1.73 acres, but it's 23 years old. That's where the 23 was. And this HOA maintains this property. It is, while it's a private property, it is utilized by the public as a lot of these types of HOA parks tend to be. There are sort of some ongoing concerns about being able to maintain that, the level of public use that it receives according to the neighborhood, and just kind of generally wondering if this would be of interest to the city to bring into our portfolio as one of the city's publicly owned parks. And so again, there's some folks here, and I don't know, Steve, as the president, if you all want to say anything else, or the committee might have any questions, but the idea is obviously not going to make a decision this evening, but we just wanted to present this. This was our first opportunity to bring this forward since we received this proposal. What I would anticipate, depending on the conversation that you might have or any direction that you might give us, is allowing staff to do some analysis on this and bring back some of our, sort of the pros and cons of what this might mean, and we could certainly do that. And as we're doing this, realizing I didn't give you that overview. Would you mind zooming out just a little bit, Corey? So, can you go up to Central Point? So we're looking at the vicinity is Central Point Road, and then Skellinger, and then McCord is a little further down. I was using McCord as kind of a main crossroad. It's a little bit further up the map there, but this is kind of the southern boundary of the city limits on Central Point Road, essentially in that neighborhood. So just an idea. And now if you could go back and zoom in again to sort of where the property's at.
Which neighborhood is this in?
It's called Payson
Farms, I think, yeah.
I think that's what it's called, yeah. So there are, the park is bisected by Payson Lane. So on the right of the screen where the mouse is at, where you're hovering, can you kind of move that around? So there's that parcel, the bigger piece, and then to the left across the street is the smaller parcel. There's a power line easement over the top or through the properties, which I think is part of the management issue there. There's a small playground, quite a bit of just open lawn area. And so, yeah, and again, I think, the neighborhood, the homeowner association is explaining to us that they feel that it gets a lot of public use maybe beyond the direct neighborhood, or the homeowners association is kind of part of that impetus as well. So, yeah.
Could you scroll out? And how close is this to the other park that the city has?
2 blocks. 3 blocks.
Hazel,
Quite a bit farther away.
It's right, isn't it right here? No?
No, it's on the other side of Central.
Other side of Central Point.
Yeah, it's over up in here, isn't it?
No,
Oh,
to
okay.
your left.
All righty.
Oh, I see.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you back out so we can see them both on the same map. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
And to that question, if I may, I think, this would be part of our analysis. We just wanted to introduce this to you tonight and not give you the full kind of analysis, but part of that would be, what's our existing service level within this neighborhood area, and speaking of the park master plan that we just talked about, what does that tell us that we do or don't need in this area, and kind of where we prioritize our efforts. So those are the type of things that we would take a deeper dive on and have that conversation if you want to proceed with that conversation at a future meeting.
So how many HOAs in Oregon City have their own pocket park like this?
I don't know the number, but I do know there are several, a good handful or more. My recollection, maybe 5 to 7 or something that were their actual parks. And I know my time previously with the city, I engaged in this conversation with at least a couple of other HOAs that wanted to do the same. And I know at that point in time, and that's been quite a few years, the city's stance was that we didn't want to accept those as park property for the city for various reasons. But yeah, there are other examples of that in the city for sure.
Oh, looks like we have a question from the HOA. Do you want to come up here to speak to a microphone, or just from back there?
Stay right here.
Okay.
We would need to probably bring a mic to us.
Or paraphrase the question.
We have to, can you hold on just a second? This is a public meeting that gets videoed and we have to record.
Sorry.
We'll bring the mic to you. It's okay. You don't have to.
You might have to use
Good, she says. Great.
Doing good?
Jen,
One of our biggest concerns is the proposed development of 29.
Could you have the speaker, speak up or maybe
I
more
don't-
directly into the microphone,
I
please?
don't think it's picking her up.
One of our biggest concerns is the 29 homes that they're proposing to develop at the end of our street, which means there's going to be a lot more kids using that park.
And I can kind of just note what was said, if that's okay, Ginger, and if there's anything that I'm paraphrasing. I'm just speaking here because it didn't show up. So your main concern is they're building 29 homes near the park place, or near the park
At the end of the street.
at the end of the street. And is that like Central Point, that area?
No,
Or,
at the end of Payson Lane, it went.
oh, okay.
I can, and I can, on the map, I can show, oh, it's over there.
Yeah.
I know where that's at, so I'm gonna,
Maybe up here.
And so I just have a quick question, because I was by this I was by the park earlier. I wanted to drive by and look at it before the meeting. How big is the Payson Farms HOA? Is it just like?
40 houses.
Oh, sorry, is it, I just mean area-wise, does it stretch like all the way through Blanchard Drive down to
No.
Orchard Grove here?
No, it goes Payson Lane and White Lane, that's it.
Okay, so just those two streets?
Yeah.
Okay.
so just for the committee's information, that where Corey is hovering the mouse, kind of circling that general area right there is where the development is, right? Is that look right? Yeah.
29 homes there. And then, so I walked by this area earlier, and there is a big sign by the park that notes that it is a private park. Is there anything that is done to police that, or to kind of prevent people, or is it just there to kind of hopefully persuade people not to?
Hopefully persuade people. Some people actually follow the rules, but not very many.
I was surprised at how busy it was. I came by and there was 20, 30 kids there, and it is not a huge piece of land. So I was surprised. It was very busy, but very well maintained. It looked, especially the center area between Payson and White Lane with the picnic benches and the flowers, that was a lot more beautiful than I actually expected it to look. So
We pay a lot for that.
I was surprised. It was good to see. So let's open this up. Sorry, just my general comments of checking it out earlier. Of the actual proposal that's here. So what questions does the committee have?
I guess the one question, oh,
Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, I just had a question as to like the use in terms of ongoing maintenance. I noticed in the proposal, it said there was a $5,000 annual fee for water. What other kinds of services does this park require?
I think I can generally address that. I'm not speaking for the homeowners association, but just based on our conversations and the proposal is, just general turf maintenance, irrigation maintenance, cleaning, garbage, probably. I don't know what else there might be included, but I think just general upkeep of the park is what I'm understanding.
There's no restroom, is that correct?
No.
Right.
Do you have,
$150 a month to fuel.
Do you have garbage and recycling on
No.
site? Okay.
$112 a month goes to Oregon sprinklers, to maintain the sprinkler system.
So the HOA currently contracts out its maintenance is what the reference really is there, is they contract out most of the components of maintenance.
And because of the power lines that are over it, there's no chance ever for you to build any kind of housing or building underneath that.
Correct.
Yeah, I believe that's accurate, yeah. And it also limits what you can build vertically in the easement for the power lines.
All right.
And I don't know if this is something, I know you said there's a lot more work that has to be done in terms of looking at the master plan and kind of identifying those areas outlined in that are of specific need right now for particular amenities, but is this generally an area that, I know, the Hazel, that there's one park that's close, but 20 to 30 kids seems like a lot. I mean, I'm in Rivercrest and we're at the park pretty often, and I mean, sometimes there's like a dozen kids there, but I don't think I've ever seen like 20 to 30 kids at the playground. That seems like an incredible amount. I don't know if it was just like really busy the day that you went, but yeah, that to me seems like a lot. Seems like a lot of kids.
I was truly surprised. I was there 2 hours ago, or about an hour and a half ago. So, and I did a full count, and I walked the entire property before I came in here. So I was just surprised. I've never seen a park with that many people there. Some people were playing baseball in one of the lawns that was there. Some people were sitting in the picnic tables on the other side. Mainly all kids too. There's only one adult that was there. So, Emily, did you have anything else to add in on this?
Oh, I guess I don't know if I missed it, but is there like a price or has that information, like the finances of it, been discussed at all?
HOA members, correct me if I'm mistaken, but from our conversations with them, I understand they would want to just donate the park to the city.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, go ahead.
So are the, kind of the infrastructure of the park in pretty good shape? Is the irrigation system, if you're paying that much to maintain it every year? That seems to
The
be.
irrigation system is 24 years old.
Okay, so but they obviously are probably replacing heads and doing some of those things
Right.
now, but, so there's nothing that you're aware of that would require any major capital investment at this point?
No, they do an annual full checkup every preseason, basically.
Yeah, 20 year, I mean, if it's 24 years old, there's a lot of things that'll probably, at some point, it's probably getting close to needing significant replacement. But again, if you're spending, a couple $1,000s a year to maintain it, a lot of that would probably be kept up. So I was just curious to see if there was any major things that you knew that would have to be replaced right off the bat. I'm sure that's something that you guys will figure out.
Oregon Sprinkler expects the controller is not going to last a whole lot longer.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's
there's
old.
$300 or $400. So, okay.
So when I took a look at it, Scott, I'll have this question for you. For the maintenance that's done on it, if Parks did take over this, I assume that you'd overtake the maintenance and the sprinklers maintenance as well that's on here. Do you feel you have the capacity of staffing to handle that, or is that still something you're looking into?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we would need some time to analyze. Is that's really a big part of it as well. Is I think this is a good conversation. I think we're kind of scratching the surface of those things that we need to analyze. The condition of the facility and the infrastructure would have to be understood, what we would be inheriting if we were to accept this, the level of maintenance that we would need to provide and what that might look like. And, you know, anything new that we take on as a maintenance item is going to pull our resources away from other things, where it's going to sort of water those, you know, resources down a little bit, if you will. And that's a big part of the question really is this the spot that the city would want to expend additional resources? While we may be inheriting something at no charge, there's a cost to that to the city, and that's what we need to understand to make sure that we have that kind of information before we proceed with any decision making. So, yeah, there will be an impact, and that needs to be better understood.
My only other comment was just thank you for your soft-handed approach to some of the interlopers. I know that that's probably a little bit of a problem, but I appreciate you not going in there hard-handed and kicking people out and that sort of thing. So I know it's frustrating, but I do appreciate you at least letting the kids in there.
Yeah, I also have to say thank you for that. I mean, you're so closely located in proximity to John McLaughlin that I imagine you have lots of children trickling over before and after school and during summer break, especially when the weather's like it is now, that I can imagine they find green space and just want to hang out and do things. And that's what we want kids to do in the summer, right? Yeah. If they're there, they're not creating havoc somewhere else. So, you know, that's something to consider too. It's a big neighborhood nearby a school, so proximity is something to consider too. But yeah, thank you for that.
Well, one other thing I had, Corey, I don't know if you have control over this, but would you be able to zoom out? I feel like we have another property near here, and I just wanted to see how close it was. Isn't there an undeveloped property a few blocks down on Central Point that has power lines that go over it? Not Hazel Grove, but they do soccer there.
Not on Central Point.
Maybe I'm off on that.
You might be thinking of Moccasin Way.
Is it
Okay.
Is it the property off of Myers that you're thinking?
Yeah, it could be off Myers. I could be a few blocks off on that.
Further to the, yeah.
That's Wesley Lynn.
Okay. Even though I drove by it, I always get mixed up on those two, so. Yeah, so I mean, I think there's no decision being made today. I think we got the questions that were there. The only other thing I would have is, if they did take this on, I note some of the requests that are here and the limitations in regards to development. Is there the ability, even if it was a dog park or some sort of sport court, something like that, do we overtake that ability to build what we would choose under the PG limitations with power lines, or is it pretty much we're just maintaining specifically as it is now?
I think that's something that could be a decision point, but I don't think my understanding is the HOA isn't offering any limitations on it. It would just be, we would take it over as a park, and it's in its current condition. Would we do anything differently? And yeah, there would be some limitations, mostly because of the power lines, but there could be potential additional development there. I do think it's pretty limited though. Those power lines, the easement takes up a pretty big portion of that park property, and it's not a large property. It's well under 2 acres total. So I don't think we have a lot to work with, but there's certainly, we could do, just as any other park that we might own, we have the ability to make improvements to those parks if we choose.
Great. There's no other further comments. I think that, Scott, if you can mistake me on this, you're going to do further research, just look into it completely, and we can review it later on for a decision?
Right, that would be our recommendation, unless the committee had a different idea and wanted to go in a different direction. But I think that this, again, was just introducing it to you tonight. At a future meeting, when we're ready to do so, we'll bring back some additional information that will be a deeper dive on. I think you started in those questions that were right on target. So we would bring that back, do that analysis, and I would anticipate that staff would bring you a recommendation that we think this is a good thing or not for the city to consider, and then you can give your view of that, and then whether that goes forward, how that might proceed or not, would go from there.
I did have one final question, and that was in the master plan. I know that we kind of addressed non-city owned properties like school district properties and different things, and they do provide a service, but do we know if, I don't remember counting or seeing anything about private parks of being kind of factored in any sort of a service level. Is that?
I don't believe the HOA parks were included in that level of service analysis because they're not available to the public typically.
Right. So, just curious, I guess. Because even like school property is not available to the public, you know, for most of the school year, well, all of the school year basically, till school's out. So, just curious. Okay, thank you.
All right. Let's move on to the next piece. Thank you, Payson Farms, for sending this request, and Ginger for speaking up and giving us the information.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can move on. Final general business item today is PRAC Community Outreach.
And this is a follow-up, and Tom's going to present some information to you. You asked for some things that you could actually use when you go out to the community as part of your outreach. And just to tie this back as well, we just talked about the Parks Master Plan and the update that we just, that is completed. This really ties into that as well as sort of looking at future planning. And I just wanted to say before I turn it over to Tom, part of the conversation that will continue with you is we talked about this briefly at the last meeting, which is we are in the process of beginning to develop a 5-year CIP list with prioritization, and we want to present that to you for your consideration of helping us align the priorities that are in the master plan with, this is what we want to do first and down the list. So this connects to that loosely, and we'll be developing that, but I just want you to know that we're going to be bringing that back to you in the next few months at our meetings, and probably having, I would suspect, multiple conversations around that. So with that, I'm going to ask Tom to show you what we've got for you to do some good community outreach.
Yes, if you remember in our last conversation, we talked a little bit about ways that PRAC can get out in the neighborhoods, whether it's to different events or just, kind of going out and knocking on doors and informing the community about upcoming projects. So I want to give a little context to what this actually is. It's very large on the screen, but this is actually sized to be about the size of a business card. It's very similar to our staff when they're out in the parks. If somebody comes up and has a question that they're unable to answer, they actually have a business card that gives kind of the general parks info number, the general parks info webpage, all those different resources that they can hand out to the citizens and connect them to the resources to ask the right questions. So this is kind of based on that premise. And so this would be the front of it, which is, this is actually a photo from Waterboard. So kind of connecting, it's a very nice photo from Waterboard that our communications manager, Jared Lyman, took for us. Just kind of outlines what it is, who it is, and then talks about some of the projects. These projects are actually identified in our biennial budget. So it's really kind of hitting on things that we have money for, that we're going to be working on, that we know we're going to be doing. Those items are Wesley Lynn with the dog park, which we've been working on over the past couple months. Hillendale has a restroom replacement scheduled there. That's local share dollars. So that's, pretty much a slam dunk there. Chapin, there's a potential playground replacement that's in the budget. We have about, yes, I'm very excited about that. We have about $200,000 scheduled in SDCs to expand that playground, and then we would use that and go out for some grants to kind of replace the existing. Rivercrest has some pathways that we actually want to create some ADA accessible pathways to the play area. That'll probably also include the removal and replacement of some of those play structure pieces with more inclusive play elements. And then we also have some park improvements at Park Place. What those improvements are yet to be determined. We have about $200,000 to play with, so it's probably a park shelter. That's something that the neighborhood association has indicated. They're looking for more seating areas, more areas in the winter that they can use. There's a big open space there, and a park shelter was actually planned as part of their phase 2. So those are the projects that we've outlined here. This QR code is not set up quite yet, but what it would do is take us to the parks project webpage, which is on the website. That lists out, kind of the status of all of our current projects. It gives people the opportunity to see where those are. That webpage is about to be updated with all of these new projects and kind of all the old projects from the previous biennium, particularly now that we've finished our Parks Master Plan, will be moved into the completed section. So there's a lot of nice new things to talk about, and this is a nice, easy way for the committee to engage. Any thoughts on this? Or I know we had talked about at the last meeting coming to some of the events. Everyone is still welcome to join us. We've got our first one coming up on July 4th. You can either serve as a volunteer through, that's kind of more as a formal volunteer. That I would encourage you to get in contact with Cecily and Taylor as soon as possible to sign up for that. But you're also welcome to just come join us as PRAC members and walk around, talk to the community. We will have these, it should be pretty easy to print these, so we should have these in time for the event. We'll hand them out and have them at the table, ready for the concert season that's about to begin.
Are you going to have anybody at the First City celebration with handouts?
We will. So this year, First City is going to be a little bit different. We're doing it as a city-wide booth. Traditionally, that booth has only really been Parks and Rec, and our community engagement specialist has done a great job of kind of rallying the rest of the city to provide information. So we'll have staff there, but there'll also be staff from other city departments that are able to answer questions about streets, police, all the different services that the city provides. But we will have our flyers and these there as well.
Who is that person that does civic involvement or?
Hannah Schmidt.
Hannah Schmidt?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And did you have something?
Yeah, so on these projects, I mean, if we were going to talk about these, if somebody showed up, I'm assuming that there's still a lot of public involvement that's kind of required or necessary in order to, I don't think you need the neighborhood to design a restroom, but a new playground and some of those things. How do you guys approach like a playground project? Do you decide what goes in, or do you let the neighborhood kind of kick it around, or do you have a committee that kind of formulates some of those, or have you had that opportunity yet? I get it with a new park, it's different, but.
Yeah. I would say that I have not had the opportunity to do that here with the city yet, but one of the ideas we've kicked around, particularly with Chapin, is, I don't know if you're familiar with Cook Park in City of Tiger. Yeah. The process that they did there was really interesting. Just kind of background on this, from a procurement standpoint, most of the major playground manufacturers are on a state price agreement, right. So we can work with them directly. And so kind of the process that they used there was they had the four major playground manufacturers come up with individual ideas for what this playground could be, and they used that as the engagement process. So staff refined it to make sure that it fit the needs of the park and the needs of the maintenance team, obviously, but then they kind of presented four unique options to the community, and the community was able to kind of vote on that. That's always been kind of the idea that we've kicked around, doing something with Chapin where we can do a lot of really in-depth community engagement on what that play structure looks like. There's different funding streams that come with that as well. So the Metro local share really does not, it's not going to be useful if we go traditional post and platform kind of play structure, but they would support a nature-based play structure like you see at TSW. So if that's more what the community wants to go, well, now we have a funding source that can kick into the SDCs. If they're thinking more, large traditional play structure, that's where we've got to target some different grants. So Ken, to kind of answer for all of these, I would say the only one that we've done a lot of robust community engagement on is the dog park. Right. We've met with the neighborhood associations. We've refined that project over time. That one's kind of nearing the finish line. The rest of these will follow a similar process.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. That was excellent answer. We don't have an exact process, but we definitely very much want to engage the public. An example, just quickly, the Hillendale, we're going to be teeing up a new restroom. I'm going to the Hillendale Neighborhood Association monthly meeting next week, which happens to be at the park. They have their July meeting in the shelter right near the existing restroom, and I'll be sharing this information. And this is actually a perfect handout that I think I'm going to bring and try it out on at a public meeting. So Yes, and we'll continue to engage. So, I appreciate that you're thinking that way, Ken, and wanting to make sure that, we're thinking about that. But we will value public input as much as we are able to. There might be some limitations with what we can do and not do, but yes.
What kind of feedback have you already gotten about the dog park at Wesley Lynn? Because I know you've been to some neighborhood associations already on that.
It's been pretty overwhelmingly supportive of the dog park, and I think the general consensus from the community is as big as we can possibly build it. We should build it as big as we can. So we're in the kind of the refinement phase of those. If you remember, I believe you attended one of those. If you remember kind of those, did you attend?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Good. So there's kind of the three options. There's one that's we had originally looked at, which is a smaller segment. We did medium-sized and then a full-sized, kind of takes up all of the existing off-leash area. People really responded well to that one. So we're working on refining that based on some of the feedback that we received, and then cost estimation to apply for the funding.
So it sounds like the Chapin Playground facility or the structure that you could put there is still under formulation. Have you ever visited Creston Park in Portland?
I have not, but I will put it on the list.
Okay, they've got probably one of the best kids playgrounds that I've been to. And, I guess that when you start looking at kids playgrounds, it's either formulated for a toddler to 5-year-old or 5-year-old to 12-year-old. And those two playgrounds are really separate. But this one really hits it for a big majority of kids. They've got a 15 to 20 foot high hill, a round dome that kids, it's like a kid magnet, and they can spend hours there playing on it. So that's surrounded by a whole bunch of other interactive things, really makes that one of the favorite parks in Portland.
Nice. Yeah, it's very cool. I'm looking at some photos here. Definitely on my list to go check out.
Another great example of a park is the one in Kalama. You've been to the park up there next to the McMenamins, and the adult activities that they have there too are a lot of fun. But the kids' play structure was pretty amazing, and it's another great example of use.
I'm adding these to my list. I keep a list of my favorite parks in the PNW, so I'm going to have to add these two. They're not even on there. Just to focus. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, if we're just talking about nice parks, there's a really excellent one in, I guess it's Westmoreland, but I think of it as Selwood. It's like right along 99, and it's got running water and like a sand pit that there's like communal toys kept at. That's like my son's favorite park, and it's always really busy. It's a great one. It kind of combines like the water elements, and the kids can like actually turn the water on themselves and pump it, which is really fun. I know that's not something that there is presently in Oregon City, anything like that. So, and that's kind of like more of a natural park. And I know you said like funding for that is potentially more accessible. So, and there's the bathrooms right close to the Chapin Playground. So, yeah, that would be cool.
Sunset Park in West Lynn has one of those little kid-activated little pumps and a little bit of a sand thing, and it's not as problematic to maintain as the one at Westmoreland. I know that they've constantly have problems with that sand just running down into the drain and stuff. But
That's good.
one of the, I guess, do you guys install the playground equipment, or have you ever done that, or do you just go with full on, let the contractors or hire it out?
We've done both. So depends on kind of what the capacity of the staff is.
Right.
TSW, if I remember, was installed by the contractor. But there have been ones where we've done the removal of an existing one. There's been ones where we've done the whole thing.
I was just to throw it out there, but we, because that installation cost is significant. Yep. And sometimes with volunteer builds, you can reduce we used to trade neighborhoods, or say if you came out and helped us, we would apply that money to more stuff, which is...
Kanema Children's Park was built that way.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun for the community, but it gives a lot of ownership to the area too. So there's an advantage. There's a lot of advantages to it. I mean, obviously, you have to organize it real well, but and have somebody that's well versed in installing playgrounds. But it's just another way of either saving money or being able to provide more equipment.
Just to kind of circle this conversation back to community outreach, my thought on these specifically, with Chapin's going to be a big conversation. It's a very active park, a lot of kids there. The dog park is I don't know the best way to phrase this, but I'm just hoping that when we have these conversations with the community that, would they start to see why we're going to be asking for funding with the completion of the Parks Master Plan. I think that these, specifically the dog part, I mean, somebody who's lived here for a decade, I haven't seen a lot of new that's here. So if we can really bring in the community and have them be something that they're proud of and a part of, I think it's going to be a lot easier for us the next decade when we're asking for funding, when we're getting these 25 years there. So I'm excited just to see this community outreach and to be able to have the conversations of just look at all these great parks all these other cities have. How do we get that in Oregon City? And that's what I really want to bring out to everybody. So this is exciting. This is the first thing I've seen like this in, how long have we been on the committee for?
4 years.
3 or 4 years. So, I mean, I'm hoping that when we have this, the website's up, we can come by, pick up the cards and share this, that be happy to be part of the community in Oregon City. I went Emily's kids' favorite park to be in Oregon City. Same for mine. I have 10 favorite parks. None of them are in Oregon City. So I'm hoping that with some of these parks, the thought that we can put into that is we can have that here. It's going to cost money. It's going to be a part of it, but this is where we start the conversation at. So it's just exciting.
I was glad to see that Yelp put out a thing last week about good parks to go have a sandwich at and take your kids to. And they listed 100 parks. And almost all of Oregon City's parks were included on that, which I thought was good. So I think I found the article that was in Newsbreak. I don't know if it's just one of those blogs that kind of show up and you can click on it or not. But it was nice to see that a lot of the Oregon City parks were actually included in it. So it just helps. Every little bit helps.
So Scott, I know that you were involved in when the high school construction class built some structures, and is that something we might consider for the Park Place shelter?
Yeah, they did. They had a really active high school construction core program, and they built a number of our. They started small and kind of did a few small things with us, and those went so well that they took on a couple of bigger projects. Great. Unfortunately, that program went away several years ago at the high school, and I don't know.
So we need to grow that again at that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything if there's any possibility of that being revived, but it was a wonderful partnership. We just the projects kept getting better and better and bigger each time they would take on a project, and yeah, it was tremendous. And they saved us a lot of money. We got a lot more out of the money that we had, so. I concur, but they're not there right now, and I don't know whether that's going to be around.
The students learned so much about having to go out and asking for donations, and I mean, it was a very well-run program.
It was excellent, yeah.
There's a lot of Eagle Scouts that need projects too.
Sorry, Tom, you were going to say something there?
I was just going to, one of the things I wanted to highlight with these projects, kind of to build off what you said, is, one of the things I think I've really taken away from the master plan and from what I hear in the community is taking care of our existing assets. And I think these projects are all opportunities to talk about how we can improve our existing parks, right?
Yeah, sure.
These are not new builds, but they are potential. I mean, I think about that restroom at Hillendale, which is weird. And this could be a really big improvement over what we have. And these are good opportunities to tell that story too.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have some beautiful land in Oregon City. I mean, but we haven't received funding since 25 years we've talked about.
Yeah.
That's been there. I mean, I love so many of our parks, but it's just updating them, making them nicer. And then also, what we talk about a lot is being able to get the land that we need to for a lot of the communities that aren't serviced, near the high schools especially, and other ones that were noted there. So, yeah, I love it. I'm excited to see this list. I'm excited to, as a, committee member, to go out and share with the public. A lot of times they're like, why aren't we doing anything? I'm like, we are. It's just a lot of planning and getting to where it's at. So I think we're going to see a lot of engagement on this and excitement in Oregon City Parks and Rec, which is what we want.
Yeah, just if I may, we completely agree with that. This conversation has been fun and appreciated, and I think that this is obviously what we want to do as staff, and I think we're hearing positive things from you as the advisory committee to build that momentum and go forward. And that's where, when I mentioned at the very beginning of this item conversation, that we are then going to take that further look out for those next bigger projects that are in the master plan and start prioritizing those. So doing these projects in the next couple of years gives us that momentum. And I think we've got really exciting things in front of us. It's all about the resources and, having the funds to do everything that our community wants. But I think we're on our way to doing some really good things. And then that momentum I think will carry us into being able to do more in the future.
Softball and baseball fields.
So was that all you had about this, or was there some more? I mean, is there
We do have a flyer option as well. It's basically the same thing. It just has a picture of a dog park on it. It's a little larger.
Right.
We'll do that for the tabling element. Do you want to show that just real quick?
Sure, why not?
and
This one, actually, the QR code is set up on. So
would
you
a
can
map,
test it.
a map that kind of shows some of the service areas that we're looking at, would that be something that would be,
I think that's what we'll, so if you do use the QR code, it'll take you to.
it'll have a map on it, or?
Right, it'll go to the project page.
For these, right?
Yeah, so the project page is, could use an update, and I think a map would be really helpful in there. Particularly, we can start with these projects as we work through our CIP. We can start to plan out where those future projects are. I think that will help the community see where we're investing and help tell that story that we are investing throughout all of Oregon City. So that, yeah, especially with GIS nowadays, you do all kinds of cool stuff. One of the things that, depending on resources again, there's an option that's called a GIS hub. I don't know if you've ever used those. They're very cool. They can do like story maps, and you can tell all kinds of really cool stories. Right. That's what I'd like to turn this page into. It'll just take a little time to get that up to speed.
Great. And my final comment on this is just when the previous cards are ready and the website is up, could you email us, since we don't have a meeting next month, and give us the ability to come by and fix them up?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm at parks a lot, so this is a good conversation we can have with the public. Any other things, Tom or Scott, that you had on PRAC community outreach, or is there any other comment on this general business?
I think that's it for us.
Well, I had one just thinking about, a map or something that it might be to show some of those areas that are deficient, so people also know that we're not just focused on these 5 parks, that we're talking about a whole system, and, so it's a progressive, it's a 20-year plan, or a 10-year plan, hopefully, but probably 20. But, just so, and maybe so people can kind of pin where they're at, and, just kind of engage them in that way. And so, what would you like to see in your area? And that's just part of that, and it's not scientific, but it is data that is handy to use. I mean, just to be able to help record those comments. And
Well, when we determined what areas were deficient, that was based on the last survey that happened, right?
So just to clarify the question, when we talk about deficiencies, we're talking about the areas where we may need to build new parks in the future.
Based on.
Yeah, so that was based on, some of you may remember from the master planning process, we did equity mapping.
Yes.
They looked at the level of
Yes.
service. Those kind of overlapping circles,
The circles.
all identified
Right.
these
Okay.
areas that had need.
Will we be doing an additional survey like that at any point in the future, like 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road?
Yeah, that's usually part of a master planning
Okay.
process, because that helps just continuously update where you can make your improvements. Yeah.
So,
Great.
awesome.
I'm excited to see this. This is exciting. Hopefully we can, as PRAC can really do some good outreach. We've got movies in the park coming up. We've got concerts coming up July 1st. I mean, the next 3 months is the best time of the year for community engagement. So this was really the goal. So thank you, Tom, for following up and giving us something concrete we can put out there. Any final parts of this before we move on to member reports? Okay, Scott, go
Just
ahead.
mention one other thing. It's not this exact topic, but it's related, and I just wanted to let the committee know that, so there is under the National Recreation Parks Association, there is a promotional effort, and it's every July that July is National Park and Recreation Month. And most of the local parks agencies adopt some type of proclamation, and we do that here. And actually, that's on the City Commission's agenda next Wednesday. It is next Wednesday, yeah, the 2nd. And so we're going to do, the mayor will do a proclamation declaring that July is National Parks and Recreation Month.
July
and
3rd?
Whatever the Wednesday is.
It's the second.
So anyway, that will be teed up, and you know, the idea is just to give visibility to all the, so it ties into what you all were just talking about, all the different events and activities and things going on. It just kind of ties in with that. So I wanted to mention that, and that proclamation's on our website, but we will send that out to the committee members, just for your awareness.
Great, awesome.
I had a follow-up question, or I guess we didn't talk about this park specifically, but just kind of in the, talking about dog parks. I think it was a couple meetings ago, Tom, that you mentioned there was plans to put like signage up or allow off-leash dogs on that park off of homes, kind of in the back of the Singer Creek Park. And I was over there the other day, and like the path that goes back there, I think was maintained last year so that you could walk kind of from the main part of Singer Creek to over on Holmes Lane, but it was not navigable. And I'm wondering if there's plans to improve that accessibility. And it's mostly blackberry, so it's thorny to get through. It's not just a matter of like, you know, walking through it. It's very prickly. Yeah, what is the status of that park? Or that project?
Oh, can you hear this? There we go. Thanks for asking that. So that's a really kind of interesting property because we call it the Singer Creek Annex. It's part of Singer Creek, but it doesn't feel like part of Singer Creek because it's kind of inaccessible to the rest of the area. But now we have these new developments with homes, and one of the conditions of their development was that they had to build gated access to both sides, just to Stafford Park and to Singer Creek Annex. So now they have access to this field. We've traditionally just maintained it as a grass field. We feel like it'd be a great opportunity to do an off-leash dog area. One of the improvements that we'd need to do there is we'd have to build our own fencing. Currently on one of the sides, it's neighbor fencing. That fencing is not great. It's actually a question that I get occasionally. We had planned to do that work in the spring, but you know, we had some budget challenges that prevented us from doing that. The trail that Emily is mentioning is actually a fire break. It's not even really a trail. They cut it to kind of prevent a fire in there from overtaking the whole park. But it's a great opportunity to build a trail that would connect that property the whole way to downtown. So still a priority for us, just trying to come up with the funding. That property would be a great opportunity to do some volunteer work, particularly with the trail. So if you know of any groups or anybody who wants to do that, that'd be a great opportunity to do JROTC, have them come in. Last time we did the clearing, we just took a mini excavator in there, pulled it out with a brush head. We would probably do that and then install gravel to make sure that it's actually accessible for the future. But yeah, that one's all about finding the fire. Go ahead.
Would that be in terms of funding, like if there was restoration involved, because it's pretty much all noxious weeds over there, unfortunately. Like there's Japanese holly, there's the Himalayan blackberry, there's just ivy choking out all the trees. Would that park be eligible for restoration work with the Nature in the Neighborhoods grant, or?
Yes, so it has actually, if I remember the last time I looked at the community choice grants map, that park was recommended for a project, kind of an unspecific project, just that it needed restoration work. And that would be a project that would be eligible for that funding, particularly like the trail component combined with restoration. So that could be, anywhere up to $250,000 from Metro to support that. So actually, thank you for reminding me. This is a great opportunity to plug that. If you have any last minute projects, all projects are due in by June 30. So if there's anything that sparked your interest tonight that you think might be a good fit for the community choice grants, get them in now. The deadline closes June 30 and staff will be starting to review projects June 14th, I think, or July 14th.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, not trying to move us too fast here, but just to double check, is there any final things on the PRAC community outreach, or are we good to move to member reports? All right, we're going to move on to member reports. I guess I'll start us off here because I have a lot that are there. I just wanted to, just a lot going on in the summer. Both splash pads have been excellent. I saw one have a minor issue and a parks person was there almost immediately to fix it. I've noticed the parks staff doing a lot of great work, trimming trees, keeping things safe. I was at Rivercrest and I want to say end of the Oregon Trail. There's a lot of work being done there that I saw that was awesome. The summer camps have been great. So if you do talk to Melissa, tell her awesome work there. I saw the Rivercrest camp and I saw my son is in the pool camp and he's having an amazing time. And I think it's one of the best resources that the Parks Department offers to parents in this area. So just a lot of great work that was there.
On Sunday, I took a walk down to Hillendale Park and past the pickleball courts where there was a lot of activities, nice to see on the pickleball courts. It looked like a church group was there too that was using it. And then following up on what Tim had mentioned about the county blocking off that access from the way we used to come, and noticed that, that access way was blocked, so I had to walk a few more blocks around to get down into the park. But then I noticed there's that trail that goes over to the jail, right? And so I had to get home to look on the map, and that is part of our property, right? That goes from the pickleball courts over to that Keene Road that goes back to the county jail. At least on the map, it looked like it was park property.
Part of it is the
So
city
it'd be
property.
nice to know whether that our Parks Department is keeping that trail up, which was in pretty bad shape, but yet there is access there, and just, wondering if I don't know, the pickleball players, do they use that?
The place where the gate is right now would be the most convenient place to get open because it is right on the other side of a big, huge parking lot, and it's the closest parking lot to the pickleball courts. Otherwise, it's a big walk from whatever other parking lot.
And there is no parking lot over on.
No, that's
Keene Road.
the jail over there in the former animal control area. But there is a wooden chip trail, and it's walkable and rideable, so it's just a little bit further away. It's not easy to go ahead and park right there. You still have to walk all the way around. It's probably easier to park in the far parking lots where they park for the baseball. But
It'd be
Tom,
nice to have a discussion with the county about.
did you have a chance to talk to the county?
Yeah, I was just saying, go ahead, Tom.
Oh, yeah, I actually do have an update on that. I have a contact at the county that we can start to talk to. So we've got the facilities director. The Clackamas County is actually holding their employee picnic there, and it's actually a request that their employee picnic community, or the committee that puts it on, is requesting from their own facilities department. So there's definitely a need, I think, that's been identified. So we're kind of working through those channels right now.
Great. Are you done, Joyce? Okay, so speaking of pickleball, thank you very much. The pickleball courts need some attention over there. And if there's any way to get some of that community grant money for them, that would be fantastic. There's some cracks that have developed in the court that need to be addressed. The club is willing to do it, but they've talked to somebody that said, no, you can't touch that court and patch it yourself. So the club would love to go ahead and fill in these cracks and make them nice. But overall, the outside structure of the court is crumbling quite a bit, and it's going to need some funding to go ahead and improve that. And it would be a great project for the community grant outreach fund. So if there's anything that you need from the club or anything to facilitate that project, it'd be great.
So kind of two-part answer. That was news to me that somebody said they couldn't do it. I actually just emailed them today and said they could. So I'm hoping that they are able to do it.
Okay.
We're trying to coordinate that. They said they needed access to water, so we're working with the staff to get them access to water. So hopefully the next time we meet, we'll be able to say that that was taken care of. The community enhancement grant piece, they had actually intended to do that. The price that they went out and got a quote, and it was a little more than anybody was able to swing for this year. But they're actually working on doing some fundraising so that they can help do that for next year, and ideally we'll be able to help contribute. But it is an opportunity to look at maybe a community choice grant or one of these other funding sources to see if they can help pay for it.
All right, leave it open for any other member reports.
I had a busy June, so.
Excellent. All right. If that is all that we have, our next scheduled meeting is August 28th. We'll have July off because, again, there's concerts in the park every Thursday. And then we are adjourned for today.
Thank you.